when even Teal Swan is aware that we have a problem with this male hating, are the majority of the men asleep? Absolutely. There are also a majority of women asleep. Is the onus of violence more egregious with men? Of course, no one's going to argue that. Some of the crimes that men have committed against women are unforgivable. And I mean that. But we're not talking about those men, you see. Because I'm not talking about the population of women who compete against women, who basically manipulate and who fuck with women and women's men, husbands, boyfriends, sons, brothers, okay? We're not talking about the men who are harmful and dangerous and weak. We need to talk about us. And we are beautiful beings who encompass both genders. It's not okay to have a blanket statement against men or women, just like it's not okay to have a blanket statement against a religion or a race of people. It's wrong. It's never brought us anything but grief and wars and more hate. When Teal Swan, who in many cases is the polar opposite of a person like me, sees what I see as to what the male bashing has become. See, the Me Too movement was so important. I wrote an open letter to Catherine Deneuve and the 100 women who said that the Me Too movement was us being crybabies. I was enraged. When Weinstein was exposed, we were exposing Louis B. Goldmare. We were exposing all the MGM, producers, directors, writers, the casting couch. That impacted not just women, though the propensity was women, but also men, young men. And to this day, no matter, it's funny how you get knowledge from the most vile people. Like P. Diddy's come out with a lot of things that's shown us what we always knew. We have to be discerning to the messages thrown at us, in particular as women, for we are the grail. We are the chalice. We are the Holy Grail because we have a womb. And those of you who don't have a womb, who may hear this, the energy of that truth is still embodied within your vessel. We are the ones who have massively brought male and females into this world. There's no other way, though science is trying to do it. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, read the book Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Read it. It's fucking happening. This imbalance, this anger is not going to co-create the world we want. It can't. The frequency isn't a match to the new earth. And the new earth is not devoid of men. The new earth has men who are consciously awake and beautiful. I have clients. I have a particular client who I adore, whose generation is from India. And he toggles between the Western culture and the Hindustani culture. And he's a beautiful man. He's a beautiful man inside and out. He's generous. He's loving. He's kind to his family. He's loyal to a fault. He would never harm a woman. In fact, and I'll be straight up with you, he's been with some toxic women. Toxic women who were damaged by other men. Toxic women who were damaged by other women, by their own mothers, by their own aunties. I talked about a young man who took his life recently because his mother was selling him. Okay? His mother, not his father. So let's get it together. Let's create a new earth. Let's work hard in really balancing this message that many of your sisters are accepting point blank verbatim. They're being led by their nose like cows to the, you get me? It's by design. They want a lower population. It's by design. Now, the 4B movement has its validity in that you have to understand there are cars, metros in Japan, where there's metros, there's a car just for women. So women can feel safe. And if you've ever been in a metro, in any place in the world, you know how creepy it can get real fast with the wrong, toxic, weak man. But then I've seen men help other women in situations that were, they couldn't have gotten out of it without a man's help. You see what I'm saying? There's a wonderful story of this little kid, African-American kid, a teenage boy, who saw a little girl being kidnapped. And he bicycled for miles until he caught up with the perpetrator, the kidnapper, and saved that little girl's life. That was a young man. And I could tell you stories after stories of abuse by men and of men who saved children and women and other men from dire situations. So what now? What now? Are we really going to let our sisters globalize man-hating, man-bashing, or are we going to ask our sisters to educate themselves and balance the conversation out? It needs to be balanced. As long as it continues in this route, I've reposted Teal Swan's comments. Look it up. Teal Swan and What's Going On with Men. Brilliant interview. You know, I may not like her, but the chick is brilliant. You can have, and she's definitely not my enemy, don't get me wrong, but you can have an enemy you respect across the battlefield. You can learn a lot from people who are coming from the opposite end of your own moral values or philosophies or approaches. I learned from fucking Andrew Tate. I learned from all kinds. I learned from Rock, even though I detest The Rock. I learned a lot when I saw how he aligned himself with Oprah, another woman. Should I bring it up? Woman? Here's a woman. Oprah. There's a woman who hung out with the vilest examples of men. Weinstein, Epstein, and John of God. I've mentioned it before in a life. Oprah, oh my God, Oprah couldn't, she couldn't do nothing wrong for the last 25, 30 years. Couldn't do nothing wrong. And the subtle things that she was showing us about her toxicity were real. Geraldo is a toxic man. A weak, toxic man. I'm sorry. Maybe he grew up since I last saw him, but I stopped watching him a long time ago. But Oprah was dangerous because, see, in every home in America, all over the world, she was thought of to be something great. Turns out Mother Teresa was another hustle. Look that up. Go down the rabbit hole with Mother Teresa. That was a massive blow for me. Massive. Couldn't believe it. So you are being asked to be the woman of a higher level of integrity. I am being asked to be that woman. And I am still mentoring my son, who's a very young man, through the shadows of his own trying to figure this shit out. Meanwhile, young women, have decided to just tear the whole fucking thing down, which in a sense may have a wisdom, but there's a point when it becomes so destructive, there's no going back. And to go back could take 3-4 generations. And when I say generations, I mean 20 years, 100 years, 120 years. Is that really what you want to create, a world like that? Is that the new earth you want? An earth where we've decided to just throw all the good men away? Do you know what I call good men? Not fucking golden retrievers, which I think is insulting. Men are not a dog. You're not a dog, neither are men. I call them unicorns. Why? Yes, because they're rare. It's a sighting of a unicorn, a man with integrity. Don't get me wrong, I get it. I have been that little girl that was being abused by men. Way too old. Way too old. I've had men come up to me and me saying, I'm 14, that's okay. So it's not like I don't know what the fuck's going on. But I also know that my husband and my twin were faced with moments where they could have sat back and let the shit go down with a woman being abused, a woman they didn't know, a stranger, and they got involved at the risk of their own lives. At the risk of their own lives, they got involved in helping a woman get away from a beating from another man. See, that's what we need. We need men in the United States Army, the armed forces, to not let shit go if they know there's abuse with other women being used and abused, which is a massive problem in the armed forces. This is not news. This is not new. I remember meeting former enlisted female, some officers, some whatever level of degree, I mean, whatever. And I sat there in 2003, 2004, 2005, talking to them in college about what had happened to them and how other men saw it and did fucking nothing. And other women saw it too and did nothing. In fact, because of women's own jealousy in the armed forces, aided it in happening. In other words, helped it out. Made sure it was convenient for another man to do. So there's a lot of shit we need to get real about. A lot. And until we do, and until we speak in this, go on those lives. We're having massive hour-long, we're talking about hours and hours and hours of conversations. There was an incredible, I don't know where she is. There was this incredible lesbian, beautiful, and she said, this is big for me to say this, but I'm seeing, and this is, how did she put it? A male-hating lesbian. This is how she put it. Beautiful. The best thing I've ever heard a woman say. So she was being straight up. I'm seeing Palestinian men take care of their women and children. I'm seeing them do everything to make sure that the women and the children are protected, fed, led to safe places. Those are men. We have seen incredible examples of courageous men put themselves in harm's way for the benefit of their own families and other people who they probably didn't know at all. Digging with their hands, their bare hands, to try to save even a cat. Like they didn't quit because it was a cat. They continued until the cat was freed from the rubbles. Those were men. So what are we doing? What are we doing? We've got this incredible soul like Bizan, who is an amazing feminine energy. She's like a Joan of Arc. But we also had other men that are there, that have lost their lives. We lost over 200 journalists in 6 months. Was it 6 months? Was it 9? Does it matter? World War II in damn near from 1939 to 1945, I think lost, 80 journalists. Okay? In 6 months, the number was doubled. And a lot of them were men. We have to realize and remember that we have been men and women in many incarnations. My message is pretty much the same. I'm not deviating from that message. You'll have guys like Andrew Tate, and you'll have guys like Robert Kennedy trying to do the right thing, being judged by this because of the sound of his voice, not the content of his character. We have women that have been massively successful and beautiful and kind, like Anita Roddick, who should be remembered, and yes, she isn't. And if you don't know who that, look it up. She set up the Body Shop. She was the founder until they bastardized it. Look at Hillary Clinton. Is that the woman we want? Margaret Thatcher, Bloody Mary. Is that the kind of women we want? Margaret Thatcher, when the Irish were going through a fasting Because all they wanted to do was to be treated like human beings. She didn't give a fuck. She let them perish. She let them fast until they were no longer in their body. Okay? Those were women. Margaret Thatcher. So I've seen the dastardly deeds that women can wage against men, against justice, against our own best good. So this gender bashing and hunting is another manipulation. It's probably something that they've all thought of in these think tanks. Don't think they haven't. Don't think this isn't coming from a think tank. Think again. Every move in the last 5 years, and beyond that, of course, but let's just look at the last 5 years because we've all suffered, is a think tank move. You got to be kind of, in La La Land if you can't see that. And that's not a conspiracy, though that is. And it's not a theory because we're living it. We're living the fucking deluge of the damage of what these people have done. And because they couldn't get us race against race, religion against religion, that's not working. Well, okay, gender. Yeah, let's look at gender. That's a good idea. There's a point in every revolution where there's a honeymoon period. And then it goes very, very bad. It always does. It was a great book I read, which I can't find to save my life, called The Anatomy of a Revolution. And it mapped out every revolution. The French one, of course, fascinates me, no kidding. But they talked about the Russian one as well. They all have a honeymoon period. So when we did the Me Too movement, there was a honeymoon period. There was a kumbaya. Men were invited. Good men were invited in the dialogue. And now it's gone twisted, ugly, and perverse. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I can tell you that I have a son, and many of you have a son or a brother. Maybe a brother maybe your brother's toxic. Maybe your father was toxic as fuck. I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. We all are intimately connected. What I mean by intimate is we have family who are masculine. And those are conversations that does not have to denigrate into yelling, shouting, and calling each other's names. It's important that we have these conversations with as much compassion and open circle and respect as possible. And men who are entrenched in their 3D Playboy Mansion bullshit need to wake the fuck up. Sorry. The size of my ass isn't fucking relevant in this conversation. The size of my age isn't relevant. Grow up. And men who are good, you guys who are unicorns, you're going to have to step up and call them out. There's another post that I posted, that I reposted a couple days ago, of a former soldier, military woman, crop cut hair. You'll see it. You'll see her. She talked about one of the commanding officers having a talk about how he wanted men to call each other out on anything that was inappropriate. And she said it made her feel safe and seen, that a man would call other men out. Meanwhile, we had a man deliver a speech at a university, I think you know who I'm talking about, who said that his wife's life started when she got married to him. And he was very comfortable having that speech. Every man who knows that man should say, what the fuck's wrong with you, man? Is there something wrong with you? So your wife became something when you married her. What are you from? Is this the dark ages? Are you going to put a chastity belt on her when you go traveling on your little football games? That's how subtle some of the toxicity runs, and it's controlled by orthodox teachings. You get what I'm saying? A lot of it isn't the masculine, the feminine. It's orthodox training through religions. Do you understand? And so men feel not only entitled, but comfortable in talking like that. And the Orthodox teachings go all the way to the Playboy Mansion. When again, there's something about being an elder, my friend, because we remember some history. It was a flex to be on the cover of Playboy. It was a flex to go to the Playboy Mansion. You fucking believe that shit? This was considered successful, to be invited to the Playboy Mansion. A freak, Hugh Hefner. His daughter, who was, God knows what happened to her in that relationship with her father, who I don't know if you know, was editing Playgirl, which was a joke, okay? It was a joke. It was pandering to the feminine. Let's see what you guys have to say, because I usually don't read until I'm done. Let's see what you guys have to say. And I have a wonderful men in my life. I have met toxic men and women. Thank you, my love. I have a son who gives me full faith that real men are still here. Of course they are. Of course there are real men that are still here. They're beautiful men. They're men right now who are being born. Now, you know what Teal Swan said that really blew my mind? Because you guys have that kind of power as women. We are the chalice, my friends. I don't care what men think. Okay? There are, well, anyway, I'm not going to go into that. But there are women who have trained for many incarnations to, there's a term for it, and I forget it because it's such a fucking long term. Andromeda, you may know it. Who can actually have a child without a man's seed. Mother Mary was not the only one. It was a high priestess cult that actually, and I'm going to say cult, right, whatever group, but they could do it. And they did do it. Okay? That means they didn't need a man. But you realize that the Amazons who would take men just to have babies with it wasn't a balanced situation, right? I hope you guys know that. And it's all admirable to look at it on a movie screen, but in reality, the brass tacks of, being an Amazon and hating men and not trusting men and all of that, which, by the way, Amazons existed. They were found on burial sites were found in the Russian steppes. So they're full-on tattoos, horses buried with them with all their armor, all their weapons. It's proven. And Plato, like usual, talked about Amazons. And by the way, I remembered Amazons. I used to draw them when I was 7 and 8 years old. 7 and 8-year-old little girls don't draw Amazons, okay? Again, this is 1969. Do you understand? Yeah. So it's past life memory. It's that energy. But it was in balance, I can tell you that. There was something missing in that. Because we need the masculine energy. We need to balance it in ourselves, as well as men need to balance their feminine energy within themselves. It can go too far off the cliff, either way, for us or for them. But going back to this guy who had the mendacity to get on a stage and talk about how a woman's place is in the fucking kitchen. Here we go again with this bullshit. It's by design. It's think tank shit. Believe me, we're being manipulated once again. And we need to really pull out our unicorn men and make it so that they're not unicorns, and that becomes more and more a normal, a sighting. That's what I call it, a sighting, a good man. But there are a lot of good men. In fact, Andromeda Flame has introduced me to a couple that are fantastic men. My twin had shadows, as I did, being his counterpart. And he was a good man, but he also was a very wounded, broken man, as I was, a broken woman. Wounded, shadows. And these things are activated when twin flames meet. That's actually the joy. And the joy and the pain of finally getting rid of all that pain once and for all in one fucking lifetime. That's pretty amazing. That's the gift we've been given. The dark night of the souls are not for shits and giggles. It's for massive, massive purging that goes back hundreds of millions of years, quite possibly. Because you guys might think, well, that's not possible. My last psychic said I had 2 incarnations. Those aren't psychics. Those are babies. Because a good psychic will say, well, I'm seeing 3 or 4 incarnations that are downloaded, but you definitely have had more than fucking 3 or 4 incarnations. That's for damn sure. Most of us have had more than that. Believe me, we've had hundreds of thousands. Some of us millions of incarnations. For real. And in some planets, we lived for thousands of years. It's a different reality, isn't it? I think we need to start like waking up to the levels of reality and not think that this is it. It's kind of like a villager thinking that the village is the world and everything in the village is real and anything outside of the village is a myth. You would never like agree to that villager. You would never go up to that villager and say, wow, you're wise. Yes, the only thing that's real is this village and you and whoever you can see with your 2 eyes. But everything else is a myth. Everything else is malarkey. You would think the person's crazy and you would be right. So to think this planet and our incarnations on this planet are the only experiences we've had ever is the same premise as the metaphor of the villager, thinking that's all there is. That's insane shit, to me anyway, personally. It's kind of like saying reincarnation doesn't exist. Why? Do you think it's fair, or does it even make sense that one person will live for 2 years on the planet and another person will live 80 years on the planet, and one person will be absolutely powerful and abusive of their power, and another person will be suffering and lose their life at 19 in a third world country? That sounds like that's it. That's all you need to go to heaven. What are we, 12? Am I going to believe in Santa Claus going down my chimney as well? Is that where we're at mentally? So when you look at the manipulations through orthodox teachings, which clearly no longer fucking works, where you have think tanks that figure out how they can control us and create egregores. See, the egregore of the male bashing and now the female bashing. Because, see, of course, these toxic men, instead of going, wait, we've really pissed women off. Because, a smart person in a fight, let's say you're fighting with a friend, somebody you love, or your beloved. If you're smart, you're going to go, hang on, I triggered them. Okay, wait, hang on. Am I fucking up, or is it all them? Is it all them, or is it me, or is it both of us? That's a smart person. They look at a conflict and they go, wait, hang on. Is it all me? Is it all them? Or is it a combo that we're both fucking toxic and we're both triggering each other? See, smart people think like that. So the fact that men aren't sitting down with their brothers and going, dude, how are we fucking up? There was a guy who was interviewing guys in jail, and he asked these men when they would start abusing a woman. And all of them said 18 months. 18 months, 2 years. And the guy who was a psychologist said, why? Well, because if I do it at 6 months, she'll definitely leave. A year, she'll definitely leave. But in 18 months, she's all wrapped up around my finger. And at that point, I start pulling it out. Meaning, the abuse. And so he realized that abusive men are very, very aware of what they're doing. Very aware. Okay? There's some cases where they're not. Those are very wounded, broken men. Those are the men that'll say they're sorry and they mean it. But for the most part, it's all about manipulation and control. So that guy that did the speech, the university, his wife's life started when she got married to him. Yeah, I'd love to look at what's going on behind closed doors. Because that's not normal, what he said. My father, who was born in 1923, was not faithful to my mother. But her being French, she understood in her mind, the way she was raised, that men had mistresses, you see. But there was no abuse. There was no manipulation. There's none of that. They were fighting. Some of it was inappropriate of language. But I can tell you that he would cook, he would clean the kitchen, and he was a definite alpha male. No doubt. He was a man's man. He scared other men. That's how badass he was. And he used to run all kinds of things. One day I'll tell you, if we ever sit down across from each other, stories. He was a legend. And he was out there, but he fucking would cook, clean, all of it. He would buy her lingerie. He would buy her in the 1970s $100 silk underwear. Okay? I don't like men who don't know how, I don't know what to do in a lingerie shop. I don't know, dude. Fucking learn. I don't know what to do between your, learn. So yes, there is a female anger. It is definitely present, but men have to start calling out men. It's not our job to call. If I see a woman that's inappropriate, manipulative, like I've done readings when I worked for this company, 1-800 company, like years ago. If a woman actually asked me questions about cheating, in other words, taking someone else's husband, I would refuse the call and hang up. If they called back and said, oh, I think no, we didn't, sweetie pie. It's not okay for you to start, taking another woman's man. Okay? Not okay. Think about the karma. Think about what you're doing. Not okay. However, those were 1-800 calls. When I sit down across from twin flames who are in marriages that have long been dead, where both parties, and I know for a fact it's happening, are not being intimate with their spouses, or they are, but their hearts, the marriage is just on a treadmill to nowhere. I'm not talking about that. Because, that is a different conversation. Because that is a soul bond that goes back millions of years. I'm talking about women who just want to have sex with a man and they just want to put it on their notch that they took that woman's husband just because it's fun. Well, it's something to do. So there are those women and there's those men who do that too. What I find interesting about this movement against men is that Teal Swan said that at some point we will have less and less female births. Male births. I was thinking of China just now. Less and less male births. Less and less. Because the egregore we're creating will create a situation where, without us doing anything, I'm not joking, it won't be like the McDonald's in India where, if it was a female, they would, I don't know if you get I hope you're getting they would unaliven that, situation. They would have like these places that you could go. They were all over the place, like a fast food joint. It was crazy. This was going on the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, where if a woman found out in India she was going to have a little girl, done. All right, so moving on. That's also what was happening in China. Look at what they're fucking living with now. So we're about to do it, but without lifting a hand. Our consciousness, this is how powerful we are. Our consciousness, and I agree with Teal Swan 100%, is going to stop us producing boy babies. She talks about it. Listen to what she's saying. It makes fucking sense. That's an egregore energy that is very, very, very dense and incredibly dangerous, actually. The Council of Nicaea created the lie about Mary Magdalene and Yeshua's sacred union. Understand how the masculines have been attacked and feminine disempowered. That's the key. Let me put it in order. So let me look back. Okay, hang on. Who's ready to get off the earth? I'm exhausted from these lessons from lifetimes. We need to normalize respect and unity. Hang on, Andromeda. Understand how the masculines have been attacked and feminine disempowered. That's the key. The Council of Nicaea created the lie about Mary Magdalene and Yeshua's sacred union. I began there. And we talk about it. Andromeda and I. It did start there. And if you look at the movie 300, okay, it's about the Spartans, right? And they're going to lose, right? But do you remember how she says goodbye to her warrior, to her man? Jared, but played by Jared Butler, how she is strong and how she knows she'll probably never see him again. We had these incarnations with our men or with our women when we were men. When we were men, we had these moments with our women in the ancient world where there was mutual respect. I had a past life with my husband. We're Romans. We're Italians. We're Romans. And let me drink some water. We're in a courtyard. He had a dream of a weapon. It was a weapon he had invented that could really decimate things. My husband had many incarnations as a badass warrior, a lot. And it wasn't a flex. It was something he was concerned with, actually. He was ashamed of it. That was one of the problems in this incarnation. But anyway, he'd come up with this weapon, and I was his wife. And we were very respectful of each other. We were equals. And I think if you know anything about Rome and Roman law, you could inherit as a woman, blah, 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 all of that. But there was still some fuckery that was still benefiting the masculine, and I was his equal. And he saw me as his divine counterpart. In other words, we would have conversations. And I remembered, as he was telling me, I started seeing the courtyard, and I described it to him where we lived in our villa. And he went, yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. So we were having flashbacks. And my husband but is not my twin. It's my high-level soulmate. We're part of the same soul group as my twin. Let me see what else. Let me see what you guys are saying. It's kind of like 2 o'clock in the morning right now. Okay. So, anything... Let me see here. We are... Hang on. I'm trying to find you. Because of trauma, women and men are at war with each other. That's not why. It's not because of trauma. I mean, I know what you're saying, Michelle, my love. It is because of trauma. It's one more fucking excuse. See, as a populace, we need to apologize for what was done in each country. And we haven't. Colonization. We need to apologize. We need to apologize to the Palestinians, the British. I'm sorry. There's some shit we need to do. We have to apologize as French. The French government needs to apologize to its colonization of Africa. Okay. We need to apologize for the slavery in this country. We need to apologize for what we've done to the Native Americans. We need to apologize for grabbing their children, cutting their hair off, and putting them in suits and beating the Indian out of them. That's bullshit. We have never apologized in this country. And until we do, we're never going to set things right. We have to apologize for interning the Japanese in World War II. Did you know that the highest medals, the most medals any unit had was a Japanese unit fighting for the Americans and they were Americans, while their families were being interned. Did you know that? I didn't know that. That's disgraceful. We have to apologize to how we've treated women throughout the country, the centuries in different countries. And countries are still doing it. In Tunisia, there was a girl that was 17, lots of girls. There was a movement going on in the early 2000s. And the movement was of, girls from that part of the world, Tunis and, that part of the world. Anyway, I'm not going to say too much because I want to finish this live without being pulled. But suffice it to say, she had written on her chest, if you get my drift, on Facebook, I am free to do what I want with my body. Well, her parents took her into, a mental institute. Okay? And for all I know, she's still there. There's been a lot of attacks against the feminine sex. There's no doubt. I mean, I'm not here to say it hasn't happened. How could I? But as Andromeda was pointing out, Mary of Magdalene is a symbol of the divine high priestess feminine, an equal to Yeshua in every way you can imagine. An equal. He saw her as his equal. It's written in the Gnostic Gospel. The Dead Sea Scrolls found in 1947, the year my twin was born. Found in those caves, okay? And the Catholic Church can't fucking deny it. But they haven't repaired it. Did you know we had a pope, a female pope, in the 9th century? Did you know that? I could tell you stories and stories and stories. Anyway, she was a female pope. Let me tell you what would happen. She was a young, bright mind, probably 12, 13 years old. And she was being mentored and tutored. And I'm not sure exactly the story of how this came about. But they ended up traveling, her and her mentor, to Italy, to Rome. And she probably was 18, 19, and dressed as a boy, dressed as a young man. And went through the ranks of the Catholic Church. And would you fucking know it, became a pope. I'm not joking. This is why they have the Pope chair. I don't know if you've ever seen it. When a pope is voted in, they have what they call a Pope chair. You will see it in the Borgias with Jeremy Irons. You'll see that scene. And he's sitting, and they're testing to make sure, because the chair has a hole in it for a reason. It's not a birthing chair. It's not a toilet chair. It's a chair to make sure that the person has all the evidence of being a masculine because she was a pope. So the way she was found out is she was a pope, and her mentor was her lover. She ended up getting pregnant, and she was walking. There was a particular procession, a Catholic, some kind of, I don't know, ritual, ceremony, whatever, where she had to take a long, long walk. And unfortunately, she was 9 months pregnant. There are two stories. One is that she gave, both of them, she gave birth right there. Her water broke, and she fucking collapsed and gave birth to a boy. One story goes that she was stoned. Her and her baby was stoned. The other story was that she was put into a nunnery, and her boy was raised to become a bishop. Eventually he became a bishop. That's the story. Thereabouts. There are movies about this, by the way. I think Ingrid Bergman did the movie on this. But anyway, Pope Joan. And this pope, this female pope, appeared in tarot cards in the Middle Ages, by the way. People knew. This was known, okay? We've forgotten important shit like that. But the Catholic Church was hell-bent on hiding that in plain sight, if you will. And ever since that happened, and she was discovered, as you can tell, that chair was a protocol to make sure that every pope thereafter would be checked to have all the plumbing that a masculine would have. I'm not joking. And you'll see that in the Borgias. Women have been feared. And I don't know why, honestly. I really can't wrap my head around, because I know I've been a man. I've been a warrior. I've been a farmer. I've been a simple man. I even died at 19 in Egypt. I was just a regular worker in Egypt. It was an accident. It's like, I don't know why women are feared by men. Maybe because when women were powerful, they were so powerful that they could do things that men couldn't do. And this is why believing in reincarnation, not just believing it to believe in it, but to understand the mechanics of reincarnation, to understand why we would come into the feminine body, to experience and to have these kinds of powers, right? And then to say, you know what, this time I'm going to be a man, right? Some twins switch genders. Some twins don't. Like me and my twin, we've never switched genders. We don't switch genders. When we incarnate and I need to be a man, for example, he's not going to be incarnated. I know that for a fact because I've seen it again and again, where he was nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen. Many, many incarnations. As a woman, by the way, and as a man. And him vice versa. But some incarnate same gender, incarnate opposite genders, and they switch off the roles. And I'll tell you something else. Some twins actually sometimes go and unify themselves in one body to experience everything through the lens of one physical body. And then they disperse again into two bodies. Wrap your head around that one. That's a new one that came across my readings. It blew my mind, and I went to Andromeda Flame, and we talked and hashed it out and talked about it. And it felt right. It was like, and the client was like, holy shit, that feels totally right. So there's a lot of things about reality and what is possible and why some things are blocked from us. If we can walk with a sacred masculine like Yeshua, which there are a lot. I introduced a starseed / twin flame to another twin flame in her separation, and they have become very good friends. And she says, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done this dark night of the soul without him. Okay? This man is a unicorn. I call him a unicorn all the time. Not every man who's your friend wants to have sex with you, though there's always that agenda with many men, unfortunately. And the same with women. You know, this friends with benefits, it rarely ever works for both parties equally. It just doesn't. It's too bad too, because it would be nice if it could. It wouldn't be a bad idea. In theory, it's a great idea, but in brass tacks, it's fucked up because you've got hormones as a feminine that's just being activated like crazy, and that's why it's not a good idea for women to do that. Where am I coming up with that? Because we need to realize as divine feminines that we have to call in our mate, not something to get done. In other words, not a distraction, just to have sex, just to have companionship, something we really don't want. In other words, well, you know, he's kind of cute. He's not good in bed, but, you know, whatever. It only lasts 15 minutes. I've actually heard women talk like that. They think this is normal. And that creates hate in a woman, resentment in a woman, because at some point she'll realize that she's with a beta male or a weak male or whatever. And she will resent the fuck out of him. So it is actually better to be single and celibate, in my humble opinion, and manifest your beloved to you. What you seek is seeking you. There are lonely men out there. Andrew Tate talks about it. OnlyFans proves it. When you've got chicks who look no better than you, not that it has anything to do with looks, but let's just say no better than you, making $250,000 a fucking month from lonely men, you gotta wonder what the fuck. So there are lonely men. That's not to say go get yourself a lonely man. No, get yourself a good man who would never think of spending his fucking hard-earned money on OnlyFans, who is trying to figure out where the fuck you are. Some of you are in separation with your twin flames, but you also have a high-level soulmate. If you have a twin, you have a high-level soulmate. I can guarantee it. Okay? It is not unusual for you as the feminine or you as the masculine to have more than one love. Yes. Is it the same type of process, power of love as a twin? Fuck no. It's like your favorite ice cream is sold out. So you go for the strawberry. Still damn good, but it's not nowhere like your favorite ice cream. It's that simple. I'm not going to lie to you. But you don't settle for say, how would I put it? French fries when you're not into French fries. And that's what women are doing. They're settling. So are men. Men get married to women because they're ready to get married. Why? Why would you get married because you're ready to get married? That doesn't even make sense. No, you get married to someone because you're fucking crazy about them. I was crazy about my high-level soulmate. He was crazy about me. I'm insanely crazy for my twin. Insanely crazy. He's insanely crazy about me. You marry that. You don't marry, well, you know, he's nice. He's an attorney. See what I mean? Not okay. If you want an arranged marriage, then do it correctly. I mean, you know, if you want. But I wouldn't recommend it. Very rarely does it work out. I have clients who come from these backgrounds where they're still in arranged marriages. I don't judge. Some of these marriages do work in terms of sibling love, companionship. But you know what? Some of them have met high-level soulmates and twins, and that's when the shit hits the fan because they're realizing, oh shit, I'm married to someone who I really am not crazy about. You see? When you're with your twin, you're in love and you love unconditionally. When you're with your high-level soulmate, you love and you fall in and out of love with them in the seasons of marriages, because all marriages have seasons, 4 seasons. It's normal. With a twin, it's different. It's not a season. It's activation. It's triggering. It's fear. It's hate. It's love. It's hot. It's cold. It happens almost simultaneously. It rushes through your body. It shifts you out of the mundane consciousness that you carry to just hang on, to just go to your job, to punch in, to pay your bills. It is something that is so radical. It radicalizes you. And the transformation is continuous. It doesn't end when they die. It continues beyond that. Because as you know, the body is left behind, but the soul continues. You know this. The relationship is transformed. It continues. And so, why would they destroy the twin flame story by bringing in people who are so toxic and ugly, who have created cults to destroy the twin flame story, to use media to manipulate millions and hundreds of millions of people who are going to watch these shows on how twin flames are garbage and it's a new age invention? Why would they do that last year and then suddenly have the agenda of the male hating, bashing bullshit that's happening? You don't think there's really, follow the breadcrumbs. It's an agenda. Because when the masculine and the feminine walk together like Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, thank you again, Andromeda, for bringing that up. It's beyond compare, beyond power. And that's what you need to understand. With a twin, the love is constant regardless of what happens. Exactly, feeling all that. Exactly. And that's, if you marry for the wrong a boring relationship will drain you. A boring relationship, you're better off alone. Fucking get a dog, man. When I was in separation with my twin, which really, talk about dark night of the soul. Like, I've had many. My first one, I was about 8, okay, to be honest. And because when you're a starseed, you're like, what the fuck am I doing here? And you're trying to find reasons to stay. Let's just put it that way. But regardless, that one was a doozy. And I basically, I'm not joking, I got a dog. I rescued a dog. She rescued me. Irish Wolfhound. I was hell-bent on finding her. And she found me. It was like perfect storm. They brought her from Oregon. And it was free. It was God, universe, wanted me to have this Zen doggy who's in my twin's bedroom right now. I'm in the other room talking to you guys. It's like 2:30 in the morning. And he's sleeping, and my beautiful Irish Wolfhound is sleeping at the bottom of his bed, keeping an eye on him. So when I ask you to follow the breadcrumbs, please use common sense. Because if they thought that we were magnificent as twin flames, twin rays, there's so many coaches and people that they could have interviewed, and I've mentioned this before, but they did not. They chose not to. There are no shows about us. There are no. Do you realize that? I hope. There's only the shows about the fuckery and the cultish crap of the dark side of the twin flame story. And in every story, right, there's always a dark side. Like, for example, with Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was John the Baptist or whatever, but one of the misogynist apostles said, why do you prefer her above us, right? There's a scene where they're describing him kissing her on the lips, okay? And he turns to them and says, ask yourself. Basically, he was saying, he threw it back on them saying, why do you think? because she was his equal, and they were not. They were following him. They were petty. They were jealous. And, they had their own issues about the feminine because of their religious backgrounds. Let's be honest. For he who has not sinned, let him cast the first stone. That kind of shit. So it was Pope Benedict who combined the three Marys. The Mary who washed his feet with her hair, the Mary who was Mary Magdalene, as we know her, and the Mary who was a woman of the night, right? He combined the three Marys. This is known. This is not woohoo shit. This is not, me coming up with a myth. No, this is known. This is documented. The Catholic Church knows. It was Pope Benedict. He decided it was a good idea. So what he did is he bastardized Mary. That was the beginning of when the Mary was combined. But then again, you had the Pope Joan in the 9th century. In the 9th century, they were always also marrying men. Did you know that? They were marrying men in the Catholic Church. That's also known. So there's a lot of weird things that have been diluted, forgotten conveniently. And you have to kind of think the 19th century historians, Egyptologists for racism, misogyny, holding on to their, religions and deciding that this was real and this was not. Pompeii has a massive erotic, Pompeii was massively erotic, nasty, dirty, you know what I mean, in that way. And apparently because the Victorian sense of propriety was so high, they had to put everything in a particular area where it was locked and you had to ask permission. You had to request to see the erotic work. So all I have to say to you is, we've been fucked over by these orthodox teachings and dogma for so many fucking centuries and they know it, and they can't use religion against religion. We are supporting people who are being genoed. We are seeing with our own two eyes and our own mind and our own hearts what is wrong and what is not. We're looking at stars and political influencers and political situations that are completely fucking skewed. And so what are they going to do to throw us off track? Well, they're going to start us hating our beloveds. They're going to make us hate our brothers. I mean, what else? And it's working. Oh my God. I've never seen so many women so manipulated and highly educated, no less. Master's degrees, super, quote unquote smart, but they have no fucking street sense. None. They're so educated, they're stupid. There is no street sense. And when you have street sense, it means you look at the whole situation from an eagle's eye view and you ask the right questions. Wait, hang on. Why is this happening? Wait, hang on. Teal Swan is saying this. Well, hang on. Andrew Tate is saying that men are lonely and have all kinds of weird ideas about their worthlessness. Well, and then boom, here comes this divide and conquer agenda of the genders. That's insane. What's insane is it's working. See, and Andromeda and I talk about it, and we talked about it in one of our classes. I don't know if you guys know, we're offering classes on not just the twin flame, twin ray, ascension, starseed classes, because there are things we need to talk about. There are things we need to hash out. And we really feel that we need to send as many people as much information as possible so that you guys, many of you are taking the classes, and thank you again for supporting us. But most importantly, the classes you're going to take with people like us, with our philosophy, is that you're going to get a lot of information that will create more downloads and more truths that come out of nowhere. Downloads that you can teach other people. So not only will you learn what we're sharing with you, but you'll add more knowledge, because once you get knowledge, more knowledge erupts and is coming down from source, Akashic records, source, guides, whatever, however it comes, because it comes in multiple ways. Downloads don't just come from one single method. There's multiple methods. Sometimes it's your guides, council, the Galactic Council, Akashic record, your own memory, your own download to yourself, your soul basically saying, it looks like you're ready for this information. Let me pull out the file for you. While you're in meditation, here comes the information. And it's something you've never heard of before. It's brand new knowledge to you in your mind, but it isn't brand new knowledge. It's hidden knowledge. It's esoteric knowledge that's been hidden from you to share with the collective at the right point. And the activation of learning from other people is important. All of my activations were part other people, books I read, musings, ruminations, journaling, hypnotherapy, meditations, downloads, clarifications, conversations, more downloads. Do you get what I'm saying? That's how it happens. But you can't be in a fucking bubble and say, I'm not going to read anything. I'm not going to learn anything from anyone. I'm always learning. I will always learn. I will learn and learn and learn. I'll learn when I'm in 5D, in 6D, and I will continue learning. Because I certainly don't ever want to fall ever again. Never again. This is the last fall for me. And hopefully for you too. How do you prevent it? Well, by fucking educating yourself. No shows about us, but many movies' lines are about the twin flame. I agree with you. The Notebook is one of the most famous ones in contemporary. I've come across people saying they want to be in a twin flame for the Barbie and Ken. Yeah, good luck to them. And there'll be coaches charging them $30,000, guaranteeing them that they'll find them their twin flame. And they will. They'll be packaged up. Oh, there's your twin. He's your twin. She's your twin. I'm not kidding. And they'll be making bank on people's naivete. And done deal. There are people making so much bank on, we're guaranteed we'll find you your soulmate. What the fuck? It's a divine appointment. No one needs to be there. You know how I met my twin? I'm walking down the beach and we met with no one. No one introduced us. I'm going to tell you something funny though. My father knew Muhammad Ali, was a family friend, okay? He used to come over for dinner. Muhammad Ali. My twin met Muhammad Ali twice. That's 6 degrees of separation. That's something that twin flames and twin rays share. So the way my twin met him is that Muhammad Ali was in Albany, New York, giving out bean pie. I'm not kidding, bean pie. It must have been in the early 70s. Like it must have been like 72, 73, thereabouts. And then the next time he met Muhammad Ali, my twin and I have this thing about insomnia. Here I am, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, and he was out jogging, New York City. He was going to go out in Central Park, and my twin had shorts on. Must have been the summer. Powerful man. My twin was 6'3" at the time, 230 pounds of pure massive muscle. He was like totally fucking jacked up. So he sees this limousine, the car ajar, and he hears this voice going, "Are you jogging?" And he went, "Oh my God, Muhammad Ali." And he started talking to him, and they were like talking about how he wanted to be a boxer and how he admired him. And my point is, they met. That's my point. The most famous man on the planet in the 70s, definitely there's no question that he was considered the most famous man on the planet. I met him, and my twin met him. That's insane shit. But you'll find that in twin flame, twin ray, that is not unusual. They will meet the same people, and yet they will never be introduced by anyone. Quite often, they meet on their own. And they might actually meet, see each other, and then the second time, they may be introduced. For us, the second time was still just him and I. No one introduced us to each other. Never. Now, that could be your story, or it might not be. But the reason why they won't talk about our light is because they can't control it. And so we are having a very hard time with this bashing of the masculine, because the sacred feminine is in dire straits in separation from her twin, in some aspects or another, that makes you vulnerable. What happens when your immunity system is low? You're going to catch the flu. What happens when your spiritual immunity is low because of your grief from being in separation, no contact with your twin? It puts you in a situation where you can get dragged by the current of male bashing or despair of the male bashing and thinking, well, maybe my twin will never wake up and maybe this is it. And that throwing in the towel is dangerous as well. You have to become transcendental. I'm learning as much as I can spiritually because what I feed my twin. However, I'm not doing this to bring myself into union with my twin. I'm doing this in this life or the next. I know I will be in union. I'm building a beautiful foundation of our union. I will help masculines wake up. I will help feminines wake up, whether I'm in union with my twin or not. That's what we're not doing enough of. There's not enough of us doing that with that kind of philosophy. And the male bashing is part of the agenda to prevent the sacred feminine in rising. Imagine what happened to Yeshua. And Mary Magdalene saw them, these apostles, denying her power. But who saw him first at the resurrection? It was funny how the council in Nicaea denied a lot of things, but they could not remove the fact that the first person who saw Yeshua in resurrection was her. She saw him. Not any of the apostles, but her. That was their way. Someone in that council knew something. Someone in that council was probably afraid for his life because Emperor Constantine was a SOB. You know he was never Christian, right? He never converted, right? He was never baptized. I hope you guys know that. That's what a SOB he was. But anyway, one of the bishops knew. I'm going to leave a clue. It'll be subtle. None of them are going to notice. Because to them it's not important. The resurrection is important, not who saw him. Somebody left it as a clue. Because what masculine would show himself to first? Either a child, his, or a beloved. Or a beloved. And he showed himself to his beloved first. That's the clue. And we all ignored it in all our incarnations throughout these 1,500 years. We ignored it. So right there, we should know that the agenda of divide and conquer, the fuckery that they keep reinventing, we need to individually and collectively push back, call our sisters out for their bullshit, call our brothers out for their bullshit, and have people wake up. We need the massive awakening. And every time we're about to really kick that final, barrier, they come up with a new divide and conquer agenda and a new one and a new one. And I think this is their last one because there's no one else to divide and conquer. After you've fucked up with gender, what happens next? I mean, I'm afraid to ask, but I don't think they have much more ammo. I think they're running out of ammo. It's like a desperate person, and all they have is like one round left, and that's their last round. And we can win this, but we have to do our parts. You know what I mean? So create content that talks about it with your own philosophy as to why it's wrong, and also your stories. We need to have a movement where we start telling stories about the incredible men that have saved our lives, that mentored us, that loved us, that protected us. Some of our men were broken. There's no doubt. Some of the men were able to break through being broken and stepped over their own brokenness to help us as women. Some men could only hang on. Some men fell into toxicity and became harmful to other people, which included women. and children. It's a reality. But we're not going to bury every masculine. That's not even healthy. It makes us the perpetrators of the very things we hate in the opposite gender. You know what I mean? All right, let me read what you're saying here. Like there's so much bullshit here on earth. That's why a lot of us are going through a massive awakening. Yeah. I became a guide for people because of my downloads needed for answers. That's beautiful, Michelle. Let me see. I've come across a lot of men that needed healing and answers with my downloads. Awesome. The pendulum is swinging in our favor. I heard stories that women hating men and the universe sending them good men that healed us. But you know, we are healed by men and women. I grew up I was the last generation. I hope I am, but I don't know anymore. I used to think I was. I thought I was the last generation of woman who was going to be born, who was going to be raised around the idea that women were something to compete against and not trust. I thought I was the last generation that would use men and treat men badly for them and just want them for their money. And unfortunately, I was wrong. Women are still competing against women. Women are still waging financial war against men for money, using their sexuality for an exchange. It's a currency exchange. Women are still backstabbing their friends. Women are still having sex with their best friend's husband, or right? Okay, so I thought I was the last generation. I thought that we as women would be goddesses, high priestess, supporting each other, loving each other, applauding each other, not being triggered with jealousy, or if we were jealous of another female, to sit with that and go, what is it about her that I don't have that makes me feel incompetent, right? I thought I was the last generation. I'm not. I think there's some women, young women, that are actually worse than some women I knew when I was their age. That's what's blowing in my mind. So I'm a little worried. So we as women need to call out our sisters gently, firmly, harshly, whatever is appropriate. None of us, and men also. If you have a man, there was a young man, in fact, you can look it up on my profile, scroll all the way down, about men who cheat. You know what he said? There are a lot of men like that now. A good-looking young man. He said, if a man tells me he's cheating on his wife, I don't want to do business with him. Because if he's going to cheat on the person, the most important person in his life, a person that trusts him implicitly, then why would I do business with him? He's more likely to fuck me over too, in business. So I don't do business with men who cheat. See, that's the kind of men we need. We need men who understand the philosophy. If a thief is going to steal from his wife, then he's going to steal from you. If a man's going to cheat on his wife, then he's going to cheat you in business. It's just common sense. It's actually a philosophy. Because you see, moral values aren't deviated because of this person and that person. That's why Angelina Jolie's speech on the UN and how she talked about, I thought it was equitable. I thought we were here to help people, right? But it turned out that it's this amount for this person, but not for that person. For this country, they get that, but not all of that. This country gets nothing. And she woke up. Okay, she woke up. And she realized, holy shit, it's inequitable. It's unfair. It's based on politics. It's not based on human need. It's based on politics. You've been a bad boy. You're not getting any aid today. You've been a good girl. You've been raising your hand and voting our way at the UN. So you see what I'm saying? So it's the same with the masculine and the feminine. Moral compass is a moral compass. You never cheat anyone, no matter what. You never cheat anyone, no matter what. You never steal from anyone, no matter what. You are always, always following your moral compass. And you don't deviate from it unless there's something that is above that is so unfair. Like there are laws. I'll give you an example. Slavery was a law. And people had a moral compass to, uphold the laws of the land. And there were some people that were so self-aware of injustice of slavery that they broke the laws. They helped slave escape. They were still within their moral compass. Why? Because they were doing something against a system that was unjust, unfair, and cruel. And because they followed the law of their heart, they went against what was the law of the land. Does that make sense? So moral values isn't rigid in that way, right? Moral values asks yourself, is this good? Is this good for me? Is this good for them? Is this good for the future? Does this benefit? Is it kind? Is it generous? Or is it evil, greedy? Does it subjugate? And so when we call out our brothers and sisters, change the dynamics of this fast-paced trajectory that is going to take us off the fucking cliff if we allow it to continue. Many of us are not coming back on this planet that is 3D. We will not come back until it's 5D. So many of us, we could say, fuck it, I don't give a shit. I'm good, But to be honest, a good gardener, a good caretaker plants trees, plants flowers that they know they will not be alive to bear, to eat the fruit of that labor. Sometimes you do things for the greater good. You do things for people who you'll never meet, who aren't even born yet. And that's our job as starseeds, as kind, loving, generous starseeds, twin flames, twin rays. That's our job. We're not here in this earth school to just fuck around and not pass the massive exams. We're here to pass the exams. And the main exam is to overcome our egoic framework, our egos. Because our ego, unless it's generous and kind and releases our soul to be our best within the vessel of this lineage we embody, with the veneer of a personality, right? Unless that's happening, then we have to do better, So anyway, I'm going to read your comments and wrap it up. Don't deviate from universal laws or natural law, natal contract law. Wouldn't mind coming back within the next 400 years. I'm not letting my soul rest before I come back. Michelle, 400 years is the number I got too for myself. So a lot of us are going to be resting. A lot of us are going to take some time. Some of us will be happily joining our twin in various higher level dimensions, I'm happy to say. And just keep on keeping on. Hold the sacred flame of your divine union with your twin. Trust, and allow. We're here to do some work. This is not where we get all the nectar. The nectar comes after. Yes, we get nectar here and there. Of course we do. But it's not the place to expect all the nectar to continually flow through you. This is work, And so let's get the work done. And let's make sure that this agenda of the divide and conquer with the gender wars ends abruptly. 2025 is the year of our ascension because the shit show ends. 2024, I knew was going to continue being hard. It's going to be very challenging. It's going to continue. 2025 is the dawn of our new era. I'm not saying that to make you happy. I'm saying that because I've known that since 2023. And I just spoke to a very dear friend in France who told me she spoke to another reader who said the same, and it blew my mind. 2025, shit's over. Things get recalibrated, and we start planting a new crop of consciousness. All right. I want to thank you for being here and sending you much love on your journey. Namaste. Be well.